After his 2014 misdemeanor charge for punching a woman in the face and a 2016 one-game suspension for intimidating a parking officer, a warrant was issued for Joe Mixon's arrest on one count of aggravated menacing in February 2023. The Cincinnati Bengals running back allegedly pointed a gun at a woman's face and told her, "The police can't get me." Oh, but they did. Police issued a warrant for Mixon's arrest on February 2nd, 2023, but then they reneged on it 24 hours later. The whole timeline's a bit sketchy, but let's see if we can make some sense of it. On January 21st, 2023, a 21-year-old woman claimed that Mixon had pointed a gun at her and threatened to pop off her face. I'm guessing that means something a lot more sinister than it sounds. Anyway, the woman filed a complaint against the Bengals running back, claiming he had told her the police wouldn't be able to do anything about it while waving a gun in her face. The police took up that bet. They issued a warrant for his arrest on one count of aggravated menacing. This was on a Thursday night. By Friday, the Hamilton Prosecution Department announced that they'd dismissed the charges against Mixon.
WT at Cincinnati, the charges against Bengals running back Joe Mixon have been dismissed at the request of city prosecutor.
Something that the athlete's agent, Peter Schaefer, had already predicted. Schaefer told news outlets that the charges against Mixon were bogus, that the police should act more responsibly, since there was a life and reputation at stake here. Mixon was allegedly outraged at the possible misdemeanor charge. Reports suggest neither he nor his agent could make sense of the warrant.
We shine brighter, so we just got to do whatever we got to do to go in there to get the dub. How much road playoff wins mean?
Ultimately, just like Schaefer had predicted, the charges were dropped a day later, followed by some choice words for the men and women in blue by Schaefer. The police should have acted more responsibly, sure, but you need to cut them some slack here, especially since Schaefer doesn't have a sparkling record to begin with. His agent claims that the police were rash in filing a warrant against Mixon without going through all of the evidence in the case. The word irresponsible was used, but when you take a look at the running back's track record, you might side with the police on this one.
Out of tackles, Mixon inside the 20, and Mixon all the way down near the 17-yard.
Back in 2014, a day after he had turned 18, Mixon was arrested after he punched a woman in the face. The then Oklahoma State football player had allegedly been harassing his classmate Amelia Molitor and her friends for a while. It started outside a store, and then Mixon and his friends followed Molitor and her friends inside the store. According to Amelia, the future running back called one of her friends a homophobic slur, which made her shove and slap Mixon.
Now, and I could just sense like my dogs is ready, especially come last week. You just look around in the locker room and you just know.
The then 18-year-old retaliated by punching Molitor in the face, which pushed her onto a glass table. She broke 4 bones in her face and needed surgery to repair the damage Mixon had caused. And what did the future running back do after he left Molitor bloodied, battered, and bruised? He brushed himself off, signaled to his friends, and very calmly left the store. Unsurprisingly, video footage of the 2014 incident is doing rounds all over the internet. Once again, nothing brings more attention to your past crimes than a fresh new one, or in this case, even the prospect of you doing a crime can bring your personal life into high focus. Where was I, right? Mixon punching a woman in the face? So Molitor filed a police report, and Mixon was subsequently arrested. This was during the time he'd been playing college football.
As you look back on this game and you say, okay, where did the game swing?
Recruiters had their eye on him, but after his arrest, they started looking elsewhere. Mixon, well, his family members and agents really realized the gravity of the situation and entered a plea deal, which basically meant that the 18-year-old would serve no jail time, but would be put on probation for a year and sentenced to 100 hours of community service. Plus, Mixon had to go through cognitive behavioral counseling. Frankly, it was one of the many cases where a potential athlete gets off with nothing more than a slap on the wrist. arrest, which is why the woman he assaulted decided to sue him 2 years later. What's important to this story is that Mixon entered an Alford plea to the 2014 misdemeanor, which basically means that he proclaimed his innocence but agreed that the evidence was against him. However, the woman who was lying with 4 broken bones in her face against a shattered glass table knew better. She decided to fight the case in federal court. So back in 2015, the Oklahoma High Court issued the city of Norman to release surveillance footage from that night. Lo and behold, Mixon had harassed and punched Molitor after all. Anyway, she decided to sue him in 2016, which was around the same time as the NFL draft.
2nd down and 8, and it's Mixon again, and Mixon able to escape.
You can pretty much write the story yourself from here. The two of them reached an out-of-court settlement, along with Mixon apologizing for the whole thing, and Molitor acknowledged that she accepted his apology. Plus, Mixon's lawyer put him on a pedestal for allowing the footage to be released. He really shouldn't have put his client on such a high pedestal, actually, because he was back to being problematic a few weeks later. In his apology to Amelia, Mixon claimed that the way he acted that night wasn't the way he'd been raised his whole life, in no uncertain terms, claiming that he'd acted out of character that night. I could have sworn he was trying to hold back from claiming that it wasn't him in the video. But alright, he apologized, and Amelia acknowledged it. He learned his lesson. Nope, because a few short weeks after the lawsuit, Oklahoma coach Bob Stoops decided to suspend him for 1 game. Previously, after the 2014 incident, the team suspended him for the remainder of the 2014 season. Now Stoops decided to do so again. But not because of Molitor's lawsuit. Just like the allegations levied against him recently, Mixon had intimidated a parking officer by inching up his car to him after he received a parking citation. And if you thought that was bad, he'd ripped the citation into pieces and thrown them at the parking officer's face. So, to recoup, Schaefer claimed the police had acted rashly, while the truth is, Mixon's track record didn't help him out. But during a time when people demand more accountability, let's see what the Cincinnati Bengals had to say about the 2023 warrant. We're living in the 21st century, and one of the benefits of living in the modern world is that everything is examined under a microscope. This means that everything you do will be talked about. This might be a good thing, or a bad one. For Mixon, this might not be the most helpful thing right now, after fans caused an uproar on Twitter, especially considering how Mixon had allegedly claimed the police couldn't touch him. The Bengals released a statement, and just like every other statement made by a major sports franchise that has a player accused of a violent crime, they said they were looking into it. Fans cum critics aren't too sure about that. After all, Mixon is one of the best players on their roster right now. In fact, he's one of the best running backs in the entire league at this moment. The Bengals selected Mixon in the 2nd round of the 2017 NFL draft, and he has since posted 3 1,000-plus yard rushing seasons in 6 years. Mixon is under contract through the 2023 season and also has a club option for 2024. I don't know if the charges were bogus or not. What I do know is that Mixon has a history of being violent. What I hope, however, is that no one was harmed that night. See you in the next video.